Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Okay guys, I'm back and it is April 23rd, Thursday, and it is 11:33 p.m. Okay, I've done one video and got it uploading and it is processing. So while that's processing, I'm going to go ahead and do another video. Although probably a lot of you won't see this until tomorrow, but that's all right. All right, well, let's just jump in and I'm going to pick up exactly where I left off in the last video. Now, I did thank these people in the last video, and I'm going to just jump right in to the rest of the news. All right, okay, let's look at this. This is really fresh news. July 23rd, it's hot and fresh. Okay, now, let me get rid of that. Epstein floodgates open as judge rules explosive documents detailing Ghislaine Maxwell's sex life can be unsealed in Virginia Giuffre's defamation case within a week. Now, that's going to be pretty explosive. Judge Loretta Preska in Manhattan ruled on Thursday to unseal more than 80 documents that Ghislaine Maxwell had wanted to keep under wraps. I bet she did. The Preska said the documents, which will run to hundreds of pages, could be made or should be made public within a week. That's really good news because we want it to be made public because we want to know if there's any other hints in there about what else she's involved in. It's plenty, we know. They include flight logs from Epstein's jets, a deposition in 2016 in which Maxwell's lawyers said she was asked intrusive questions about her sex life. The documents also include police reports from Palm Beach, Florida, where Epstein had a home. Excuse me. I choked on my own saliva. I know, it takes talent. I'm just saying. All right. The documents also include police, from the Palm Beach, Florida home. It will include communications between Maxwell and Epstein from January 2015 when Virginia Roberts Giuffre made allegations about them in court papers. In the papers, Giuffre claimed she was forced to have sex with Prince Andrew 3 times when she was just 17 at Epstein's command. The documents were part of a defamation lawsuit brought by Giuffre against Maxwell, which was confidentially settled in 2017. Now, if she didn't have something valid, you wouldn't think Maxwell would have settled now, would you? Excuse me. I wouldn't think so anyway. The documents were part of a defamation lawsuit, okay. It was confidentially settled. The case is separate from the criminal proceedings against Maxwell, who is accused of procuring girls as young as 14 for Epstein to abuse. I bet that's not all she's guilty of. I bet there's a whole lot more. So that kind of hits the highlights, and I don't think we need to read this in its entirety because soon enough, these documents will be made public and we can pore over them at that time. At least I intend to. I intend to look at them and take out the things that are most important. Not that I really care about her sex life unless her sex life involves young children of any sex. All right, let's go back now. And yeah, now, Heather H. in Houston, she sent this to me today, and I'm glad she did. And I know you're probably looking at this date here and thinking, why would you pull something out from January? Well, that's why it's so interesting, is because it was written in January, and you'll see why. De Blasio revealed past shadows include Soros' Acorn. New York City mayor has a history with radicals backed by billionaire. An investigative report by the Washington Times Thursday documenting George Soros' central role in financing the protest movement in Ferguson, Missouri, raises new questions about the billionaire's largely unreported relationship with New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio. Isn't that interesting? Now, this is from 2015. So if he had those ties then, you can be assured he probably has those ties now. WND was first to report the larger Soros-de Blasio connection last week. De Blasio has made numerous comments implying the New York Police Department has racist tendencies. His controversial remarks have fueled racial tension between police and protesters. Now, isn't that interesting? He was doing this, fueling protests between police and protesters way back, 2015. This isn't something new for him. Thursday, the Washington Times reported Soros Open Society Institute has provided a staggering $33 million or more in just 1 year to support organizations that have emboldened and aided the activists and protesters in Ferguson. The financial tether from Mr. Soros to the activist groups gave rise to a combustible protest movement that transformed a one-day criminal event in Missouri into a 24-hour-a-day national cause celebre. The Washington Times stated the Times documented Soros-funded groups have mobilized protesters and were leading the nationwide social media and public relations campaign focusing on Ferguson, where a white officer fatally shot black teen Michael Brown. Such Soros-financed group as the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference in Chicago, the Drug Policy Alliance, Make the Road New York, and Equal Justice USA from New York, Sojourners, and Advanced Project and Center for Community Change in Washington, and networks from the Gamaliel Foundation all descended on Ferguson starting in August and later organized protests and gatherings in the city until late last month, the Times reported. Other Soros-funded groups made it their job to remotely monitor and exploit anything related to the incident that they could portray as a conservative misstep and to develop academic research and editorials to disseminate to the news media to keep the story alive. The new report prompts questions about de Blasio's own ties to Soros and his role in helping to fuel the anti-police protests in the wake of the decision by a grand jury not to indict a police officer for the death of Eric Garner. Largely unreported in the news coverage of the recent race-related demonstrations is that de Blasio has a history of working with extremist activist groups to stir protests. Well, I guess he and Soros have something in common. Probably the same people that he paid back then to do the protesting are probably some of the same ones that he's paying now to do the protesting. Acorn's renamed group, the New York Communities for Change, is one of the organizations helping to lead the protests over the death of Eric Garner, who was killed by police in July. De Blasio has been accused by critics, including New York police officers, of helping to fuel racial tension between police and protesters. And what has changed? Nothing, apparently. Nothing. One of the major anti-police protests in New York that received media attention was an attempt to shut down Manhattan's Fifth Avenue shopping district before Christmas. The protest was led by the group Act Now to End War and Stop Racism Coalition, or ANSWER, together with Occupy Wall Street and at least 10 other so-called economic justice and pro-Palestinian groups. ANSWER has worked with Acorn and has led protesters in the past with MoveOn.org, a group with which de Blasio previously worked. During the mayoral race last year, New York City media reported billionaire George Soros had endorsed de Blasio. Well, why wouldn't he? That's his man. That's Soros' man right there, de Blasio. But the reports failed to disclose the billionaire's major financial donation to the de Blasio's nonprofit, as well as the candidate's cozy working relationship with Soros-backed activist groups. De Blasio worked with some of those groups to stir protests. In 2011, using his position of public advocate, de Blasio launched a nonprofit called the Coalition for Accountability in Political Spending, or CAPS. The group received its primary launch donation of $400,000 from Soros Open Society Institute. Oh, surprise. De Blasio used his group and his public office to organize with other Soros-funded groups. In 2011, Chris Bragg at cityandstatenewyork.com reported de Blasio pursued a case against the Minnesota-based Target Corporation after it contributed $150,000 to an organization that promoted a local politician, Tom Emmer, for governor. Emmer had drawn controversy for reportedly opposing a law that sought to combat the bullying of homosexual youth. truth. De Blasio's office responded by organizing a protest with MoveOn.org, which is funded directly by Soros, as well as the Soros-funded Tides Foundation. De Blasio also worked with other Soros-funded groups, noted Bragg, including Common Cause, the advocacy group Public Citizen, and the DC-based Center for Political Accountability. According to Bragg, de Blasio first became more familiar with Soros after the politician was invited to speak in 2011 at an intimate panel discussion at the billionaire's Fifth Avenue apartment. I really didn't know Soros before this, de Blasio later stated. At the end of it, I talked to him a bit and he expressed some appreciation for the notion of finding a constructive way to address this. He said, stay in touch. And we did. He added, then we went to his staff and said, look, we're trying to build this out nationally and here's an idea how to do it. In September 2013, WND was first to report de Blasio had a long history with the controversial Acorn, once even steering public funds to an Acorn front group. De Blasio previously served several terms on the city council as New York City public advocate from 2010 to present. He was endorsed by Acorn for his 2010 public advocate race. De Blasio spent $43,000 to hire New York Citizens Service, Inc., an affiliate of Acorn, to run canvassing, consulting, and field work for his public advocate campaign. As a councilman, de Blasio steered $115,000 in taxpayer dollars directly to Acorn, as well as to the organization's affiliate, the New York Agency for Community Affairs. De Blasio's 2010 public advocate campaign was also endorsed by the Acorn-founded Working Families Party, with which the politician demonstrates a larger working relationship. As a councilman, de Blasio was hired as a consulate by a group called the Progressive American Foundation, which reportedly paid him $33,000 to lobby for election regulations that would ease restrictions on third parties such as the Working Families Party or WFP. The foundation is closely tied to WFP. De Blasio turned around and spent $67,740 to hire WFP for-profit branch Data and Field Services for canvassing and election consulting. The organization was run from the same office as New York Acorn. WFP was founded by progressive activist Dan Cantor, who was also a founder of the socialist-oriented New Party. De Blasio reportedly served as executive director of the New York branch of the New Party. Yeah. WND previously exposed that President Obama himself was listed in New Party literature as a member. Well, that's not surprising that de Blasio is socialist. It's not surprising that Obama is either. De Blasio is clearly still supported by the Acorn Nexus. Bertha Lewis, the former executive director of Acorn, spoke for de Blasio at numerous events during the mayoral election. I've known Bill for decades and we fought on the front lines together. We've organized together, Lewis said, according to EAG News. He's proud to say he's liberal. He's proud to say he is severely progressive and was proud to stand with me, to back Acorn, and said, we will march down the street together, and I dare you to say something against my friend, Lewis continued. So there you go. That gives a whole lot of insight into Bill de Blasio, and this was written in 2015. So he obviously has those same ties now. So I think this is quite fascinating, and thank you, Heather H. in Houston, for sending me that. Very good information, and I think that that's something that can benefit us all in learning. All right. Okay, let's go back. And let's just, I had to smile about this. Portland mayor tear-gassed after joining protesters to address presence of federal agents. The mayor of the city, where protests have been going on for 50 days, joined demonstrators to discuss the presence of federal forces sent in by the administration. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler was tear-gassed early Thursday morning while he joined crowds of protesters following several violent clashes between protesters and federal forces. Well, Ted Wheeler, you play stupid games and you win stupid prizes. It's strings. It's hard to breathe. I can tell you with 100% honesty, I saw nothing that provoked this response, said Wheeler. Oh, yeah, we believe him. Sure we do. Thousands wouldn't, but we do. Right. The Trump administration recently sent in federal forces to protect federal property from protesters who have been demonstrating in the Oregon City for 50 days. Wheeler, a Democrat, now, I mean, they didn't even have to say he was a Democrat. We would have known that right away. Addressed the forces in the city, saying that he, in addition to other state and local leaders, are opposed to their presence. Well, then do something about the rioting so that they won't need to be there. It's pretty simple, really. Even a child could figure it out. Pretty sure. It's an unconstitutional occupation. The tactics that have been used by our federal officers are abhorrent. They did not act with probable cause. People are not being told who they are being arrested by. They don't need to know. They're federal agents. And you're being denied basic constitutional rights, the mayor said in the crowd. Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti said that Wheeler had communicated to him and that the violence and protests in his city had begun dying down and that the use of federal agents had done nothing but stir that up. On Wednesday evening, the Portland City Council voted unanimously to end any cooperation between the Portland Police Bureau and federal agencies charged with protecting federal properties. The U.S. Attorney for Oregon recently called for an investigation into why some protesters had been taken by federal agents without badges and placed in unmarked vehicles. Well, the reason why they have unmarked vehicles is because any time they see a police vehicle, they burn it. So, yeah, they have unmarked vehicles. Duh. These people really aren't, they're not the smartest people on the block. They're not the smartest people in the neighborhood. Probably not the smartest people in the whole city. Possibly the whole state. Maybe the whole country. Maybe the universe. All right, let's go on now. Because we can. All right. And we looked at this before, so I'll get rid of that so I'll know we covered it. Now, let's look at this. Forced masking, a coercive practice designed to drive up vaccination rates, rules hospital arbitrator. Now, think of it. If you are forced to wear a mask, unless you've been vaccinated, and that's exactly what it'll come to, a lot of people are going to take that vaccination. Now, I'm not. There's no way I'm going to let them put anything that was developed by Bill Gates into my body. Not a chance. Back in 2018, the Toronto Academic Health Science, now this is Canadian, but this is a very good, it's global research and they do a really good job. Back in 2018, the Toronto Academic Health Services Network had a mandatory masking policy in place for nurses and healthcare workers. According to the Ontario Nursing Association, staff were required to wear an unfitted surgical mask for the entirety of their shift if they chose not to receive the influenza vaccine. An article on the Ontario Nursing Association states, after reviewing extensive expert evidence submitted by both sides, arbitrator William Kaplan, in his September 6 decision, found that the mask or vaccine policy is illogical and makes no sense and is the exact opposite of being reasonable. In reaching this conclusion, Arbiter Kaplan rejected the hospital's evidence. The arbitration report points out that there was an admitted absence of direct evidence that mask-wearing healthcare workers protected patients from influenza. Thus, one might ask, if a mask cannot even protect patients from influenza, how is it of any use against a super bad transmittable, contagious, awful virus like COVID-19? It went on to say that the argument and evidence made for mask wearing are insufficient and inadequate and completely unpersuasive. Evidence that masking as a source of control results in any material reduction in transmission was scant, anecdotal, and in overall lacking. Even more telling is that the Arbitration reported that forced masking is a coercive practice designed to drive up vaccination rates among staff and, it seems today, among citizens. If you're not being violated with an improperly tested rush to market money-making COVID-19 vaccine, then please resist the mask-wearing coercion with all your might. Note to readers, please. Okay, so yeah, but that's interesting. And the thing is, what do you do when the grocery stores won't let you enter without wearing a mask? They will not let you enter. I don't know. I mean, you can resist it all you want, but I don't know. If you insisted on going in without a mask, they'd probably call the police. Probably. Anyway, let's go on now. And look at this. No, really, look. Just as 15 were shot in mass funeral shooting, Lori Lightfoot sent tweet vowing Trump's troops wouldn't terrorize Chicago. Terrorize Chicago. I don't think that's even possible. Yeah, 15 were shot in a mass funeral shooting. A funeral shooting. Funeral. Who shoots somebody at a funeral? But does she not look like, I mean, I know this is mean, but she does look a little like those troll dolls. I'm just saying. Now, if she was a really nice person, I would never have said that. And I really shouldn't say things like that because it's not fair. But anyway, stage 5 Trump derangement syndrome has left a lot of really awful side effects. However, one of the worst side effects is the belief that it's better to die than admit Trump was right. You saw a lot of these symptoms crop up during the height of the COVID panic when President Trump recommended the use of HCQ to treat the virus. Yeah, there's updates. Dems and the media were quick to dismiss it, even attacking it as dangerous and advocating that people not take the drug. Shut up. Now I've lost myself. Some Dem governors banned the use of HCQ in their states, preferring people die rather than take a pill suggested by Trump. Well, turns out Trump was right. The medication does work, but it's not just life-saving medication that Trump derangement syndrome liberals reject. They also reject Trump's law enforcement help. Yes, they do. As a matter of fact, they'll reject law enforcement assistance even while a mass shooting is taking place in their city. That's precisely what happened to disgraced and failed Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. She should be called Lori Stickyfoot. Don't you think? That'd be a better name for her? Lori Stickyfoot. That I knew somebody that used to call Satan Stickyfoot. That's why. That's why I said that. Mayor Stickyfoot published a tweet where she vowed that President Trump's troops would not be allowed to terrorize her city. No, she's taken care of that herself. She's cornered the market on terrorizing her own city. And while she was saying this, a reported 15 to 17 people were being shot in a mass shooting at a funeral. Who does that? 15 people were shot at a funeral in Chicago. At the same time, Mayor Lori Stickyfoot slammed President real Donald Trump's plan to send in federal support. She needs to be removed from office immediately. Lori is the definition of useless. Yes, she is. And this person, Benny, says 17 people were shot in your city in a mass shooting while you were tweeting this. You should resign. Yeah, from KOMO News. 15 people were injured, one person was being questioned, and multiple suspects were being sought after gunfire erupted outside a funeral home on Chicago's south side, where at least one squad car was present, police said. First Deputy Superintendent Eric Carter said mourners outside a funeral home in the Gresham neighborhood were fired upon Tuesday from a passing vehicle. Carter said several targets of the shooting returned fire. The vehicle later crashed and the occupants fled in different directions. Carter said all the victims were adults. The shooting comes as the Department of Homeland Security is planning to deploy dozens of federal agents to Chicago to deal with an uptick in violent crime in the city. Most victims were taken by the Chicago Fire Department to nearby hospitals in serious condition, said spokesman Larry Langford. They include 10 women from the ages of 21 and 65, including one of whom was shot in the chest. Police said the 65-year-old was treated at the scene. This is just another example of unhinged, unqualified, mentally sick Democrat leaders who would rather see their citizens shot and killed than accept much-needed help from President Trump. Mayor Stickyfoot is such an abysmal failure that she actually makes that inept fool Rahm Emanuel look competent. Well, yeah, that is pretty bad. All right. She's a piece of work, isn't she? I don't know. I don't know what her deal is. Okay. Now, let's take a look at this. This is a couple days old. Well, no, it's only 1 day old. All right. Nancy Pelosi crosses the line again, calls it the Trump virus. Yes, because I'm sure that he is the one that developed it and released it. Right. I don't know. Really, it terrifies me that she might ever become president or vice president. That would be it. That would be it for the country. Really, there'd be no coming back from that. Or Hillary or Biden. That'd be it. So it's extremely important to get out there and vote for Trump. Okay. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is a noted provocateur who has been using the coronavirus pandemic to attack President Donald Trump. It was predictable because most of us knew the Democrats would use anything in their power to attack the president and promote their narrative. Now Pelosi is suggesting thousands of Americans are dead because of what Trump has done or not done. During an interview Tuesday on CNN's Situation Room, Pelosi not only called it the Trump virus, she also stated that if it's important to wear a mask now, it would have been important to wear it in March, and that if he had told people to socially distance instead of having rallies and political whatever they were, then more people would have followed his lead. Well, I think with the president's comments today, he recognized the mistakes that he has made by now embracing mask wearing and the recognition that it is not a hoax. It is a pandemic that has gotten worse before it will get better because of his inaction. And in fact, clearly, it is the Trump virus. Pelosi said, if he had said months ago, let's wear masks, let's socially distance instead of having rallies and political whatever they were, then more people would have followed his lead. I think a good deal of what we have suffered is clearly the Trump virus, she added. Then host Wolf Blitzer teed her up with an incredibly leading question that gave her the chance to go after Trump again. So what you're saying is that thousands of Americans have died because of what the president has done or not done. Is that what you're saying? Blitzer asked. Yes, that's what I'm saying. I think it's clearly evident. It's important to wear a mask now. It would have been important to wear it in March instead of telling us that by April we'd all be going to church together, Pelosi says. We're approaching 4 million. We're approaching 4 million people infected by this, infected by it, and a large number, like 140,000 who have passed away. If it's important to wear a mask now, it would have been important to wear it in March instead of telling us that by April we'd be going to church together. I wish that were the case, but he had no scientific basis for that, she said. She added, and so if they don't return to science and governance, and that's a way that we can overcome this, we have hope and prayers for a vaccine. God willing, that will be soon, but it's still months away, and people will die. So let's hope the president comes closer to embracing the reality of this pandemic, this Trump virus. It's interesting that Pelosi says it would have been important for Trump and others to wear a mask starting back in March. Pelosi traveled to Chinatown on February 24th to help promote local restaurants and shops that had been affected by the coronavirus pandemic. In fact, Pelosi walked the streets of Chinatown in late February and urged people to return to its shops and restaurants. She even stated on her own website at the time, we should come to China. Oh, sorry, that was the cat. We should come to Chinatown. Precautions have been taken by our city. We know that there's a concern surrounding tourism traveling all throughout the world, but we think it's very safe to be in Chinatown and hope that others will come. It's lovely here. The food is delicious. The shops are prospering. The parade was great. Walking tours continue. Please come and visit and enjoy Chinatown. It's just amazing to see how Pelosi can make all of the false and disgusting comments and not have to deal with any pushback at all. Well, no, because the media is on her side, right? But let's play this.
Lots to discuss, but let me start with the president's news conference he just had on the pandemic. He encouraged people to go ahead and wear masks. He admitted that things will get worse before they get better. He said eventually it's going to disappear. How far do you think all that goes in addressing this crisis that's still killing hundreds of Americans every single day?
Well, I think with the president's comments today, he recognized the mistakes that he has made by now embracing mask wearing, and the recognition this is not a hoax, it is a pandemic that has gotten worse before it will get better because of his inaction, and in fact, clearly, it is the Trump virus.
Well, what do you mean when you say the Trump virus?
The Trump virus. If he had said months ago, let's wear masks, let's socially distance instead of having rallies and political whatever they were, then more people would have followed his lead. He's the president of the United States. Instead of being a bad example, making it like a manhood thing not to wear a mask. So in any event, was weird because a briefing on the coronavirus should be about science, and that is something the president has ignored. It should be about governance, and now he's finally embracing saying, okay, it's okay to wear a mask. So I think a good deal of what we have suffered is clearly the Trump virus.
So what you're saying is that thousands of Americans have died because of what the president has done or not done? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes, that's what I'm saying. I think it's clearly evident.
The only thing that's clearly evident is that Pelosi has probably damaged her brain from all that drinking because, well, actually, it's probably not that. It's probably, I mean, she just has such hatred, and she knows that she will be held accountable sooner or later for what she has done. And she doesn't want that. She doesn't want to be accountable. So, anyway, I always seem to play Pelosi late at night. I hope it doesn't give you guys nightmares. Really. Okay, and Alberta Wild Rose. So Bill Gates contacted all of Canada's big city mayors last week, and suddenly this week, those mayors are starting to enforce mandatory masking. Are you going to let this happen in Alberta? We have rights. Well, it's happening in Ontario, if it's not already happening in Alberta. So, yeah. Not good, but that makes sense because we didn't have to wear masks until just a couple weeks ago. Now you cannot enter any place, any store, any food establishment, anything, a doctor's office, anything. You have to be wearing a mask. And you have to sanitize your hands before you go in and, take a cart because it helps you to socially distance. I mean, it's just, you have to jump through all these hoops. It's very tiring. All right, now look at this. Twitter that got rid of all the Q accounts. Well, now they've locked accounts for displaying the Star of David and cites it as hateful imagery. How can the Star of David be hateful imagery? I'd like to know, but Twitter apparently thinks it is. So earlier this month, Twitter refused to take significant action against the anti-Semitic hashtag Jewish privilege. Jewish privilege is shamming white whites while pretending to be one of us, one user wrote, according to the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. Jewish privilege is being born into a world where your ancestors have progressively transformed an entire civilization into a Jewish utopia by inverting its former Christian values into their exact opposite, another vomit-inducing tweet read. According to the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, on being challenged to take action against the hashtag, Twitter reportedly refused, saying it did not breach its terms of service, while evidently permit the platform to be used for the dissemination of racist material. The hashtag was eventually reappropriated by Jewish Twitter users to share the kind of prejudice they'd faced in their lives. However, Twitter's silence spoke volumes, even if the hashtag existed in a grimy corner of the social media platform that didn't get wider cultural attention. Thankfully, Twitter was on point earlier this week when it said some users were using the Star of David as hateful imagery against Jewish users. Thus, it locked a number of accounts for violating our rules against posting hateful imagery. You may not use hateful images or symbols in your profile image or profile header, those users were told in a message. As a result, we have locked your account. The problem, some of those users were Jewish. Whoops. According to the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, several Twitter users contacted the organization after they say the platform accused them of purveying hate. The explanation from Twitter was that the accounts used the yellow star, similar to those used on badges by Nazi Germany to identify Jewish people. We want to clarify some questions about hateful imagery on Twitter. We categorically do not consider the Star of David as a hateful symbol or hateful image. We have for some time seen the yellow star or yellow badge symbol being used by those seeking to target Jewish people. While the majority of cases were correctly actioned, some accounts highlighted recently were mistakes and have now been restored, Twitter said in a statement. Okay, and that's just the tweet. The Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, Stephen Silverman, disputed this interpretation. Only one of the accounts locked feature a yellow star, and it's very clearly did so as a means of reclaiming the yellow stars used by the Nazis, Silverman said, according to the Daily Mail. This is precisely the kind of inept response to anti-Semitism that we have come to expect from Twitter, which just last week tried to convince us that the viral anti-Semitic hashtag Jewish privilege hashtag was legitimate. We would happily help Twitter, but they largely ignore us when we approach them, he added. It seems that Twitter prefers to go after Jewish users who proudly display their identity, but not after anti-Semitic users who unabashedly promote anti-Jewish vitriol. These were some of the images Twitter apparently locked accounts for, which included a Star of David next to DC Comics character Harley Quinn, and two clearly meant to reclaim the yellow star image. Yeah. In the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism statement on the matter, Silverman said the bans made a mockery of the concept of that policing anti-Semitism was beyond the scope of Twitter. So often social media companies claim that they lack the resources to tackle hate on their platforms, but Twitter has put the lie to the claim by demonstrating that it does have the resources, but chooses to target the benign symbol of a victimized minority instead of the countless racists who use its platform with impunity, he said. Twitter must immediately restore these accounts, apologize to the owners, and pledge finally to take robust action against the anti-Semites whom it has enabled for so long. Yeah, they don't care about that. They really don't. And that's funny that they would claim that they don't have the resources when they just banned all the Q accounts. They have the resources. They just pick and choose what they want to ban, I guess. Twitter must immediately, okay, we've already read that. Some, like Anti-Defamation League CEO Jonathan Greenblatt, were more charitable. Good to see Twitter clarifying the difference between images used to harass and when used to express identity and empathy. The Star of David is an ancient symbol that represents all Jews and our solidarity. And whether you wish to be charitable about it or not, there's a problem here. Remember those two openly anti-Semitic Jewish privilege tweets I quoted at the beginning of the story? Ones that were highlighted by the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism? They're still up there as of Thursday morning. Neither user has his account locked or deleted. Both of them are still tweeting and rather prodigiously about how members of one certain religious group are responsible for a web of unspeakable evils that ensnared the entire world. None of this has been caught by Twitter's automated software, and even though both tweets were highlighted by one of the English-speaking world's most prominent anti-discrimination groups, that wasn't enough to invite human intervention upon either the individual tweets or the users themselves, both of whom had said worse things regarding Jewish people in the past 24 hours, if that's to be believed. But at least they got people who were using the Star of David as a symbol of hate. Oh, and some people who weren't. Twitter's system, whatever it may be, is thoroughly broken. I think that it's the owner of Twitter that's seriously broken. That's what I think. Now, let's go back here and let's look at this. Or not. Here we go. Uncovering the real cause of depression, the antidote, reconnection. A book review of Johann Hari's work, Lost Connections, Uncovering the Real Causes of Depression and the Unexpected Solutions. So this is kind of taking a look at the fact that all of this social separation, social distancing, quarantining, all this stuff is causing a huge effect on people's emotions. And naturally it would. So we bring to the attention of our readers this timely and incisive article by Radhika Tiku, PhD candidate at Queen's University, Kingston. Yay, that's where I went to school. Millions of people worldwide are suffering from depression as a result of the global crisis, which is affecting humanity. The pandemic is based on fear. It's a big lie. People are being manipulated. They have accepted the consensus imposed upon them: economic collapse, social engineering, poverty, despair, and depression. The impact of this crisis on mental health is beyond description. The antidote is reconnection, solidarity, and mass social action against this diabolical project. Depression is a global problem that is on the rise. In Lost Connections, Johann Hari offers practical solutions for how to tackle it. Unfortunately, he misses the crucial point that personal sacrifice is the only way we can discover what makes us content. Hari explores the sources behind depression and anxiety. Knowing depression, Hari considers two main explanations for why depression occurs. Each blames the individual. One is that depression is the result of overactive imagination or weakness of the will. The other is that depression is caused by brain malfunction. The brain's chemistry is off. It needs to regain equilibrium. Hari scrutinizes both explanations. For the first, the sheer numbers suggest depression is not the effect of false consciousness, or that depressives lack fortitude. The second is not supported by science, so Hari offers an alternative explanation. Depression requires us to revise the way we live in the world. In fact, we should ask, what does it mean to be human? Depression is a normal response to abnormal life experiences. It's like grief. Grief is a human suffering that stems from loss. Grief is relational. We grieve the death of a loved one because we stand in a bidirectional relationship with them. Death is not an abnormal life experience. However, modern culture has made it so. We intellectually know that death occurs, but we do not live as if we ourselves will die. We live at a joint with the world as if we're invincible. Thus, Hari's alternative explanation is that depression is a social problem. Depression is the illness we contract when disconnected from sources of meaning. The disconnection is disorienting because we lose part of ourselves. The antidote? Reconnection. Hari offers sources from which we might draw meaning. All involve the individual changing life in substantive ways and becoming part of a community closer to the soil. Our ancestors understood this better than we today. So I'm not going to read all of this, but this is an awesome website. It's called Global Research, and it's globalresearch.ca. It's Canadian. They have really, really good articles and so forth. But I found this especially interesting because we're losing that connection. We're losing social connection right now, and we're losing connection to activities that we find meaningful, such as going to church or attending meetings of any sort. You know, even, I guess, if you're an alcoholic, a recovering alcoholic, I don't know. I really don't know, but I would doubt that they're offering meetings now because of this, but they might be. Anyway, there's all sorts of things that we feel disconnected from. And, you know, for me, I love to smile at people. I love to compliment people when I'm walking in stores or at the grocery store. I love doing that. I've always done that. I always find something to appreciate about other people. And it changes them. Like, you can see their eyes light up, they smile. And especially when I see somebody all into themselves and whatever, I'll tell them, like, oh, your hair looks so nice. I like that. Or I like that dress. And it changes people. But we've lost that connection because we've got this mask on. It's hard to hear what other people are saying. It's hard to make ourselves understood. And we can't tell if somebody's smiling at us or not. So we are losing that connection. And I think it's causing a huge increase in depression. And why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't people be depressed? I mean, even children, you know, they want to go back to school. Really, a lot. Maybe not all, but a lot of kids want to go back to school. They want to see their friends. They want to, you know, hang out and be kids. But they can't. Nothing's normal anymore. Nothing. All right. Well, I'm sure you've heard this. I'm not going to read it because now it's getting a little bit older, but a Michigan teacher was actually fired because he tweeted that Donald Trump is our president. I hate to break this to people, but Donald Trump, he is our president. So I guess if you make a factual statement, you can lose your job in Michigan. Apparently. Can you believe that? I mean, I can because it's Michigan, but not against you Michiganers, not at all. I know there are many good people in Michigan. I know that. Just because your governor is, you know, well, you know how your governor is. That doesn't reflect on all people in Michigan. So, oh yes. Oh, Joe Biden. Joe Biden stumbles on MSNBC running mate question, gives baffling response. Far-left Democrat will be too far gone to listen, but Joe Biden's appearance on MSNBC Monday night should have been a warning to the rest of America. If the former vice president botches his words under conditions where everything is set up in his favor, how can anyone expect him to perform when the going really gets tough? Well, we can't. All right. So the answer was on full display for the inaugural episode of The Readout, and it wasn't what any American wanted to see. For a Democratic presidential aspirant, the stage couldn't have been better. The network was MSNBC, the leftist of the liberal media that passes for mainstream these days. It's a welcoming environment for any candidate willing to oppose President Donald Trump, much less the man who's trying to unseat him outright. The host was Joy Reid, an unapologetic liberal who scored a coup by landing Biden as her first get as a prime-time performer, replacing the ex-MSNBC star and now disgraced Chris Matthews. Biden still couldn't manage to answer Reid's question about his potential running mate on the Democratic ticket in November without seeming to confirm the suspicions about his mental decline that have been building since his gaffe-filled days on the campaign trail before the coronavirus confined him to his basement. Yeah. Have you narrowed down your choices? Reid asked. The response started cogently enough. If the physical examination part was a little odd, but got lost in a word salad, Republican National Committee spokeswoman Liz Harrington caught part of it for a Twitter post. I'm having a 2-hour vetting report from the lawyers and women and men of color, as well as white folks who are doing the vetting. Joe Biden is having a hard time speaking woke. Ridiculous. Here's a novel idea. picking who's best for the job, it clearly isn't Biden. Well, I think we can all agree with that. I'll tell you what's happening, Biden told Reid. We're getting the detailed analysis that has done. I've been through one of these vets, as they say. It takes about 6 weeks, and you go into everything. It's like having a public physical examination. That is just being finished. I'm having a 2-hour vetting report from the lawyers and women and men of color, as well as white folks who are doing the vetting. We've gone through about 4 candidates so far in 2-hour vetting. And then when I get all the vetting done and all done of all the candidates, then I'm going to narrow the list, and then we'll see. And then I'm going to have personal discussions with each of the candidates who are left. What's interesting about this, aside from Biden's evident uncertainty that would make a junior Toastmaster blush, is that earlier in the interview, when Reid pressed him to commit to naming a black woman as his running mate, he sounded much more confident. The difference is mostly rehearsal. Anyone can sound competent reciting memorized lines, as Biden pretty clearly was doing when he was talking about his traditional support among black women. But when it came to a question that required a modicum of spontaneity, although it had to have been expected, Biden still managed to flub it. The fact that this man is a potential president of the United States clearly bothered a lot of social media users. So anyone wonder what the story is with Joe Biden's wife and kids? Who lets their husband and father be subject to this? We can all see the poor man is ill. We can make all the jokes we want, but he's in no condition to run for presidency and definitely not run a country. Well, that's a given. And Democrats' best presidential candidate, OMG. And this is so sad. There's no way he is fit to be president, and his wife needs to stop him from running and save him from making a fool of himself. 40 years in politics and he can't even say a sentence? The last tweet, 40 years in politics and he can't even say a sentence, is telling. For good or ill, Joe Biden has been part of American politics for the memory of most Americans who will be voting in the 2020 election, and it's a simple fact that the one-time senator from Delaware who became the vice president has never been an embarrassment as a public speaker. Biden critics have called him a genius. Former Obama Defense Secretary Robert Gates memorably said the former chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee has been wrong on nearly every major foreign policy and national security issue over the past 4 decades. But this kind of embarrassment, vetting report from the lawyers and women and men of color, as well as white folks who are doing the vetting, is new. And considering Biden is seeking the position of the most powerful man in the world, it's alarming. The president has a dangerous world to face, and it's unlikely that the hard men in Moscow working for Vladimir Putin, the Chinese minions of Xi Jinping, and the murderous mullahs of Tehran are going to be as understanding of Biden's foibles as Joy Reid. Committed Democrats, victims of Trump derangement syndrome, and of course the majority of American political correspondents are too far gone to really pay attention to what happened on MSNBC on Monday night. But the rest of America should take the warning signs that are being offered. Electing a figurehead to presidency means whatever follows is going to be much, much worse. The article appeared originally on the Western Journal. Now, let's see if we can get the... Here. All right.
Most African Americans that I've talked to on a daily basis are very concerned that black women in particular have been the heartbeat of the Democratic Party for a long time, really shored you up in places like South Carolina. Are you committed to naming a black woman as your vice presidential running mate?
I am not committed to naming any but the people I've named, and among them there are 4 black women. So that decision is underway right now. And by the way, black women have supported me my entire career. You all act like all of a sudden there was an epiphany in South Carolina. I have had over a 96%, 94% rating in the state with the 8th largest black community in the United States of America, Delaware. And so they're the ones, as that old saying goes, that brought me to the dance. I have been loyal, and they have been loyal to me. And so it is important that my administration, I promise you, will look like America, both as from vice president to Supreme Court, to cabinet positions, to every major position in the White House. It's going to look like America. It's critically important that be the case. I can guarantee you that.
Have you narrowed down your choices?
Well, I'll tell you what's happening. We're getting the detailed analysis that is done. I've been through one of these vets, as they say. It takes about 6 weeks, and you go into everything. It's like having a public physical examination. That is just being finished. I'm having a 2-hour vetting report from the lawyers and women and men of color, as well as white folks who are doing the vetting. We've gone through about 4 candidates so far in the 2-hour vetting, and then when I get all the vetting done of all the candidates, then I'm going to narrow the list, and then we'll see. And then I'm going to have personal discussions with each of the candidates who are left.
All right, well,
and make a decision.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up.
So, yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I feel I don't take any pleasure in seeing Joe Biden make such a fool of himself. I do want him to be brought to justice, but I don't know. I think it's cruel. I think somebody should stop this. Those who have his best interests in mind. All right. Well, let's see what else we have here. And yeah, this is from Pink About It. Thanks to Chrissy Teigen, she just got Twitter to admit they actively shadow ban accounts after they told Congress under oath they do no such thing. And this by Charlie Kirk. Why does Twitter ban conservative accounts but allow the Ayatollah of Iran to tweet out threats to U.S. national security? Well, that's a good question, isn't it? But I'm guessing they probably won't answer that one. And Errol Weber for Congress. If a mob can take over a police precinct, what stops them from taking over your home? Exactly. Nothing stops them at all. All right. Now, all right. Oh, I want to get to this. This is just craziness. KFC will test lab-grown chicken nuggets made with a 3D bioprinter this fall in Russia. KFC will test lab-grown chicken nuggets. Yummy. Made with a 3D bioprinter this fall in Russia. I bet you guys are all going to be rushing right out there. They're made in Russia. You got to be rushing out there to get some. Yeah, I know. Reminds me of a bad joke, which I probably shouldn't tell. Okay, I'll tell it. There's 3 guys and there's 1 bathroom. 3 men, 1 bathroom. 1 guy is actually in the bathroom. 1 guy's coming out of the bathroom and going down the stairs, and 1 man is going up the stairs to wait for the bathroom to be free. What nationalities are the 3 men? Well, the guy running up the stairs is Russian. The guy coming down the stairs is Finnish, and the guy on the toilet is European. Well, maybe he's standing up by the toilet. He's probably standing up by the toilet if he's a man. So yeah, he's European. All right, okay, don't blame me. My mother told me that joke. Okay, KFC announced on July 16 it would test chicken nuggets made with 3D bioprinting technology in Russia this fall. What could go wrong? No, really. The chain partnered with 3D bioprinting solutions to create a chicken nugget that will mimic the taste and appearance of its original nuggets at a fraction of the environmental cost. Thanks, I'll stick with the chicken. Thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. It's called Kentucky Fried Chicken. chicken. The whole franchise was built around chicken. And now you're 3D printing fake meat? Are you kidding me? Well, let's see how that works out for them, because I've got a feeling it won't work out well. I could be wrong, but I bet I'm not. Yeah, so there you go. KFC will test chicken nuggets made with 3D bioprinting technology in Moscow, Russia this fall, the chain announced in a July 16 press release. The chicken chain has partnered with 3D bioprinting solutions to create a chicken nugget made in a lab with chicken and plant cells. Using bioprinting. Bioprinting, which uses 3D printing techniques to combine biological material, is used in medicine to create tissue and even organs. The 3D printed chicken nuggets will closely mimic the taste and appearance of KFC's original chicken nuggets, according to the press release. KFC expects the production of 3D printed nuggets to be more environmentally friendly than the production process of traditional chicken nuggets, but nobody will eat them. I bet you they won't. Because the thing is, they might taste similar, but they're not similar. You don't know what that stuff's going to do in your body. We weren't meant to combine stuff like that. So, the fall release will mark the first debut of a lab-grown chicken nugget at a global fast food chain like KFC. Oh, goody! What a marker indeed. The first lab-grown chicken nugget. Wow, I bet you that will be world-breaking news, won't it? Crafted meat products. Yes, you heard that correctly. Crafted meat products are the next step in development of our Restaurant of the Future concept. Our experiment in testing 3D bioprinting technology to create chicken products can also help address several looming global problems. Well, why don't you just stick with the chicken and leave the global problems to somebody else? I'm just saying, you're a chicken restaurant. You're not going to freaking save the world. You fry chickens. That's what you do. Our experiment in testing 3D bioprinting technology to create chicken products can also help address several looming global problems. We're glad to contribute to its development and are working to make it available to thousands of people in Russia and, if possible, around the world. Reza Polyakova, the CEO of KFC Russia and Commonwealth Independent States, said in a press release. Well, I just have a feeling people are not going to take to that, just like they didn't take to the Beyond Meat. Yeah. Nobody wants fake meat, plant-based meat that bleeds. I'm just saying, nobody does. Co-founder and managing partner at 3D Bioprinting Solutions said he hoped the KFC partnership would help accelerate the rise of cell-based meats and make them more widely accessible. Although it's not currently widely used in food, lab-grown meat is a heavily researched product that many investors hope will be on the market soon. Memphis Meats, a cell-based meat startup, raised $161 million in its latest funding round, and major investors included CPT Capital, a venture fund that has also backed Impossible Foods. You know why they called it Impossible Foods. And Beyond Meat. Also, on July 16th, KFC announced it would sell Beyond Fried Chicken. Oh my gosh. They're going to sell Beyond Fried Chicken at over 50 California restaurants for a limited time after successful tests in Nashville, Atlanta, and Charlotte. Okay, well, knock yourselves out, but I'm not going to be eating it. It's crazy. I mean, I don't okay, I used to eat meat or plant-based burgers and things, but they were all plants. There wasn't weird cells in them. Combination of cells from plants and animals. No. And I like veggie burgers. I really do. I like them a lot. I really like lentil burgers. Those are really good. But I'm not going to eat something lab created. No, thank you. All right, well, let's go back now. We're getting short on time here. Okay, let's look at this. Now this should surprise some, maybe not everyone. It surprised me. Lionel, how much do you want to bet this hand gesture will be interpreted by many around the world to be something else? Yes, it will be interpreted as something else. How do you interpret it? I know, you'll probably say it's the I love you sign. Sure, that's what they're doing. They're telling everyone they love them. That's right. Okay. Okay, and Catherine Herridge, Operation Legend, AG Barr. We are rolling out Operation Legend initially in 3 cities, Kansas City, Chicago, Albuquerque. We will be adding cities in the weeks ahead. Barr says murder rate in Chicago is up 48% over last year. In New York City, where the mayor has agreed to strip $1 billion from the police department, the murder rate is up 25%. Murder is up 42% in New Orleans. In Kansas City, there have already been 100 homicides this year, a 40% increase from the same time last year. This is different than the operations and tactical teams we use to defend against riots, mob violence. We will continue to confront mob violence, but the operations we are discussing today are very different. They are classic crime fighting. Well, that's good. Oh, and then Andrew Cuomo claims that people are now fleeing to New York because it's so safe. Really? Like, really? Does he think people are going to fall for that? I mean, seriously. That's what he claims. Oh, they're fleeing to New York. People are they're just fleeing there. It's so safe. All right. Okay, and this, why is POTUS advising masks? A, 1, masks eliminate the need for mail-in ballots. But wearing masks will absolutely create a need for voter ID. Well, it could be. He is a master. And he seems to be able to, he seems really, really good at well, they think that they've got him. They think they've got him cornered, and then he'll come out with something that's so brilliant. All right, actually, I'm going to just flick on this here. Not flick on it. Click on it. Yeah, see, it's after 12. I told you. Andrew Cuomo claims people are now fleeing to New York because it's safe. I just had to show you this. He's actually saying that. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo claimed people are moving into New York to escape surging coronavirus cases in other states and threatening to cause another spike. Oh, right. It's the people moving from other states. It's not the New Yorkers. No. Cuomo said that his state is now seen as a safe state. While speaking at a Monday press conference, he declared a major victory in the ongoing fight against the virus after New York reported 0 deaths from coronavirus on July 12th, the first time hitting that benchmark since March. The Democratic governor now says that New York's progress in fighting the virus has outpaced other states and that people are moving to New York looking for a safe haven from the pandemic. Sure. The people moving into the state may cause the virus to increase again, he said. Really? Yeah, it's the people moving into the state. It's not the people in the state. No. It's the outsiders, all the outsiders moving to New York because it's so safe. The problem is you have it now increasing in 40 states across the nation. How do you keep the virus in 40 states from coming into New York? We now have people coming to New York, fleeing from the other states because it's a safe state, Cuomo said. Bull crap. I don't believe that for a second. You know how expensive it is to live in New York. Do you think people from other states are just fleeing into New York? No. I don't believe it. It's the most ridiculous thing I've heard. Well, maybe not. It's one of the most ridiculous. Although every day that goes by, I hear something even more ridiculous, so I've got to stop saying that. Okay, well, I'm going to stop. I've got a couple items that I didn't hit on, but they can wait till tomorrow because I'm getting really tired. So, yeah, let's go back here, and that's it. I look weird. My hair looks dark, and it's really not dark, but I guess it's the lighting. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. See what happens to me at this time of night? I talk, I don't make sense, I'm silly, I tell bad jokes, it happens. Anyway, that's it for tonight, and thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you guys that have stuck by me. I know I've lost a few, well, I lost a couple hundred listeners, but actually I expected to lose a lot more. So, but I hope I haven't lost my regulars. If you're a regular, weigh in. Let me know you're still around. Okay, that's it for tonight. You guys sleep well, stay safe, and keep seeking truth. Good night.